What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day review, courtesy of us, the Wrestling Hypothesis podcast. Here we are the morning after TakeOver concluded. What's going on, everybody? Like I said, I am your host, the ABA, and joining me on this very video for this review, Richard, the professor of our show.
Professor, yes. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're going to get into it right now. Shout out to Kenny, Ricardo, and Tara, and as well as Lawrence. He's been on our show the past few weeks as of late. They weren't able to make it, but that's all right. They weren't able to catch TakeOver as of yet anyways, so that's the big reason why they're not with us, but that's all right. We're able to hold the fort down. Thought I'd give them a quick shout out as well, though. But before we get to the actual review of TakeOver here in just a few moments, guys, I got to say this. Every time we post stuff on YouTube for you guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below this very video so you don't miss out on more content like this video, like this review we're about to give you guys on the TakeOver show last night. And as you all know, we did not do an episode of our show this past week, but here we are now going over everything regarding last night's TakeOver event, which was pretty eventful, especially that ending. So we're going to get into it with that. But hey, you can check out any of our older episodes in the archives if you so choose. And excuse me, if you guys haven't been able to get to it already, using any of the platforms that we are available on, which is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., as well as visiting our own website, which is anchor.fm/wrestling-hypothesis. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into it with last night's NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day show. Overall, I thought it was a very good show. Honestly, I'll go one step further. I thought it was a very great show overall. You had all the matches really delivered. There was not a single overly weak or offensively bad match on the show. Good developments that came out of the matches, and some really good storyline development that we saw as well. I enjoyed it. Well, Richard, what did you think of? Just sum it up in a few words. What did you think of the TakeOver card as a whole?
The TakeOver card as a whole was strong from beginning to end. Every single match delivered. There was one match for me in particular that was match of the night that I will get to later. From the men and the women, completely very solid show. Due to the pandemic, I will have to say this was for the pandemic version of TakeOvers, this was by far like one of the better shows, one of the better TakeOver shows that they've had. I will have to say, like, from a wrestling standpoint, this goes around like TakeOver 31. TakeOver 31 was a pure, straight up wrestling show, and this goes right along what TakeOver 31 was, but not even better.
Right. Everything, the strong points from that event back in October, I believe it was expanded on here and just perfected, you could say.
Right.
It perfected last night with this card. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I would have to agree with that. Yeah, I thought as a takeover show since the pandemic, and the string of takeover events that they've given us and hosted over the past year or so since the pandemic hit, this is probably my favorite one. I really mean that. Yeah. I really do mean that. I don't think I've enjoyed a TakeOver show since the pandemic hit as much as this one last night. So kudos to WWE. They did a really good job. Now, before we get into the actual matches, I do have to point this out. That's noteworthy thing that happened on the pre-show. That's Eli Drake, as he is well known as he was well known for that name, at least on the independent circuit, and fans of Impact Wrestling over the years. He has actually made his appearance on the kickoff of this TakeOver show before the show started proper, I should say, excuse me. And he is now rechristened as L.A. Knight. Jeez, okay. Can we say something about that name? What is up with that name?
I'm going to say something about the name. They should have never changed the name from the very beginning. Eli Drake was just perfect. Like, I understand why they changed the name for trademark reasons. I get that, but in all honesty, you guys should have never really changed the name. But it's not the first time that WWE changed the name of a certain individual
Oh, for sure, and it will not be the last time.
And they became, and then later on they became like one of the best names out there. For example, remember when we first saw Nikki, aka Dolph Ziggler? They changed the name to Dolph Ziggler back in 2009. We said, everyone shit on the name, but then a couple of years later, he became one of the biggest names in WWE.
Right.
So it's like,
hey, it's still a stupid name, Dolph Ziggler.
It's a stupid name, but after a while, like, I'm gonna get over it. I'm still calling him Eli Drake. He's not LA Knight to me. I'm calling him Eli Drake. Obviously.
Yeah, it's like looking back on it, it's like a case of and I know I'm gonna probably ruffle a few feathers that are listening to us right now, but Adrian Neville, when he was known as Neville in WWE and he was like stripped of they gave him that name upon signing with them and their developmental system in NXT. They wanted to rebrand him as Adrian Neville at the time, before they shortened it's just Neville. And the former name was Pac, which he got the name back upon leaving the company and going to AEW, which makes sense for him to get the name back. And honestly, as great as Pac is, like I will always know him as Neville, like, because that was the name that I just associated him with because of his run at WWE. I don't know.
I'm calling him Pac because, like, I'm still calling him Pac.
Maybe it's the negative
Neville's
stigma
dead.
that comes with WWE, right?
Neville is dead. When it comes to Neville, we don't talk about Neville. We talk about Pac. Like, Pac right now is better what we saw in WWE. He's more of himself.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm not denying that. Like, he's gotten better tenfold since leaving the E and going to another promotion. So that better showcases and utilizes his talent as a whole, not just as a wrestler, but as a complete package.
Correct.
And the talents that he offers. But I don't know, man. It's just like, at the same time, like, I associate him so much with the name Neville. It's like that's the name that I'm always gonna stick with him by. Like, I'll still call him Pac. I don't think it's a terrible name at all. That's what he was known as in the independent scene before even joining the E in the first place.
True, but back to Drake though. For Drake,
right?
Like, we have to wait and see what he has to bring to the table, because, like, this guy came from NWA. He came from NWA. He was also in TNA. He was a TNA World Heavyweight Champion at one point. He was a big name at NWA. Not that many people know him, honestly. Like, Ricardo doesn't know him, Kenny, Tara. Well, I don't know about Tara, but everyone else that's not familiar with him, like, this guy knows how he's great on the mic. He knows what he's doing in the ring. It's just that what he's gonna bring to NXT on his own. Like, before everything that happened with Adam Cole that we're gonna get to later, I think, like, his first rivalry to get his feet wet would have been with Cole, in my opinion. Just to get his feet wet, because at the time before what happened, Cole was still a babyface. So I'm like, okay, Cole, Drake together, they could do something. And because Drake said in the kickoff show, like, yo, North American champion, NXT champion, I'm gonna be watching you guys. And Eli Drake is going to flourish here in NXT. So we have to wait and see what he's gonna bring to the table.
That's definitely true. Yeah, I'm gonna hold my thoughts on him, and plus on Eli Drake before I see him perform, do his thing in NXT moving forward. So that'll be interesting to watch out for. But yeah, the name, it's not looking good so far just based off the name change. LA Knight, yeah, no thank you. Throw that shit in the trash.
And also, right before TakeOver, there was another signing in Taya Valkyrie, who is now signed to NXT. She'll be part of the new performance class recruits coming along with Drake coming into the WWE. Now, Taya Valkyrie is definitely a name that a lot of people is familiar with, and nobody knows this. Taya Valkyrie is the wife of John Morrison in real life. And it would have been a big deal, like, if she didn't decide to go to WWE. She would have went with AEW. But I understand why she chose to go to NXT and to WWE as a whole. One, for obvious reasons, is to be with Morrison. That's that's one of the main, if not the main reason. And the second main reason is if you look at the differences between NXT's women's division and AEW's women's division,
it's like night and day.
Exactly. Like for the way that Triple H put down the NXT women's division to be as equal as the men compared to what AEW is doing with their women's division and so on and so forth, who would not want to be signed to NXT and compete of the best in the NXT women's division? Like you have Io, Candice, Dakota, Raquel, Shotzi, Ember.
A lot of names.
You have a lot of names. Like you have a lot of names. Mercedes, Toni Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have Io. I said Io. But like
you know what? Mentioning Io again just makes sense given her uber talent. So
yeah,
it's fine. That makes sense for me. So
while in AEW, you have Shida, you have Nyla Rose, you have Britt Baker, but after those four names, who do you have left?
No, that's not. I mean, in terms of names, like household names.
I'm talking about household names. I'm talking about household names.
Yeah, it's honestly not to shit on the rest of the women that are pretty much no names in the women's division in AEW, because they can wrestle their ass off, but that's not the main key issue here. The key issue is whether or not we care about them to begin with, and AEW has been pretty lackluster at best, maybe even worse than that, as at properly utilizing their women's division as a whole.
Yeah, and that's why when it comes to Taya Valkyrie, she's going to NXT, which is fantastic on her part, because this would definitely flourish her as a female's competitor in the NXT women's division, because the NXT women's division is the best division, period. Even main roster of WWE, period. And no one can debate that.
Mm-hmm. So, in terms of properly using the division as a whole, right? That makes sense.
As a whole. So that's why, like,
they're second to none. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problems of Taya Valkyrie going to the NXT women's division. It's going to be very interesting to see who she's going to face first. Mm-hmm. Whether she's going to come as a face, whether she's going to come as a heel, who knows? But excuse me, but it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with Taya Valkyrie first, because I know I've seen her wrestle. She's great. She can hold her own on the mic. She can hold her own in the ring. Let's see where they go from here. She has charisma. Yeah. Like, let's see where she goes from here.
Yeah. NXT picking up these two recent signings just from last night, off the back of last night's show in Taya Valkyrie and Eli Drake. It's going to take me a while to get used to that stupid name that they gave him. But
just call him Eli Drake. That's it. I just saved all your troubles. Just call him Eli Drake.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. But yeah, those two names bolster up their men's and women's divisions respectively. So we'll see how that transpires, how they'll fare on the NXT brand. But the show started off with Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez going up against Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart. This is the finals of the Women's Dusty Classic Tag Team Tournament, the first ever of its kind. Raquel Gonzalez has low-key been making some strides in a run in NXT as of late. She pinned Io Shirai, the women's champion, in that women's War Games match at the last TakeOver show, which was pretty surprising to me at the time. But you knew that they had big plans in the works for her the whole time, ever since she stepped foot. Well, not ever since she stepped foot, but rather when she first made her appearance on NXT TV last year. And her performance in the War Games match and the outcome was just a huge confirmation on that they had plans for her. And furthermore, she also went on to beat Rhea Ripley in her swan song, Rhea Ripley's that was, on NXT in their last woman standing match, which was also pretty good. And so she is getting a lot of time and moments to shine right now, and she really has gotten better in the ring and more confident in her presence. So I'm definitely willing to see what they do with her, what the end result is with Raquel.
In terms of Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, from jump, they were the best team to win from jump.
Yeah.
Like Raquel, but the real winner to me, I understand like Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez won, the right team won, but in terms of individuality, Raquel Gonzalez, just like what you just said, Raquel Gonzalez is on the rise, because it's so crazy how around this time last year, TakeOver Portland, she came in, she helped out Dakota Kai, beat Tegan Knox in the street fight. At first, we said, okay, who were you? What are you doing here? You have no reason to be here. Fast forward to this year. It comes full circle. Won the Dusty Cup. She beat Rhea Ripley. She's now becoming one of the top women's wrestlers in this division. Now, Raquel and Dakota Kai is now #1 contenders for the women's tag team titles. We don't know when that match is going to happen, but we have to wait and see. The right team won in a fantastic match. All 4 individuals in that match, Moon, Shotzi, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, they all delivered. They all delivered in what was a great tag team match in the women's and from beginning to end, it was great. Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, they won. Now their next step is the women's tag team champions of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. And hell, even if once they do face them, honestly, for the women's tag team championships as a whole, it's been shitty since day one. We could all agree to that. It's been shitty since day one. Now,
you took the words right out of my mouth, man.
It's been shitty since day one. Now, if Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez wins the tag team titles and brings the tag team titles to NXT, right? Brings those tag team titles to NXT. The tag team titles, the women's tag team titles could actually be relevant, especially in a division in NXT with Triple H in the backhand of things, running the division as a whole, could actually bring people's eyes to those belts for the first time since its inception.
Okay, so you're saying that in order for that to happen, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez should win the tag team titles?
Yes, because Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez are literally the only legit team, in my opinion. No offense to the Riot Squad. I understand they're a team too, but Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez is the one legit team that has been together since day one and became extremely relevant. With the Riot Squad, they've been on and off ever since Ruby Riot came back. They've been inconsistent. 1 minute they win, then they break up, then they get back together. You just broke up and then so on and so forth. You just broke up the Iconics. You don't know what to do with them. And Naomi and Lana, that's not gonna last any longer. For Shayna,
they're not even worth mentioning. So
not even worth mentioning. Shayna and Jax, that's another thing. Even though they just brought them together, Shayna's relevancy went way downhill ever since.
Yeah.
Nia Jax, I could care less. You put the tag team titles in a relevant team in Kai and Gonzalez, and they will make those titles relevant. Case closed.
Agreed 100%, man. I don't know if they'll decide to pull the trigger on Kai and Gonzalez, because I think maybe they have bigger plans for Raquel in the works, maybe an NXT women's title match. But I'm not saying that they're gonna, not get the title match against Baszler and Jax. They'll fight for the titles, but ultimately they'll lose. That's what I could see happening. And and after that, Raquel can move on to something else, because I think that there's more in the works for her coming up. So, but yeah, I thought it was, as for my thoughts, I thought it was a very great match to start the TakeOver show. All 4 women really brought it. They brought their A game here. Raquel and Dakota, they won the match after pinning Shotzi Blackheart after Raquel hit her finish on her. They were the pick I predicted going in to win this whole tournament, and they should have won this. It made sense, like you said, Rich. So not surprising to see the outcome unfold the way it did here, and it was the right outcome. So let's see where it goes, where it all goes from here. They get their title match. Will they win? I don't know, honestly, because I think they might have something more in the works for Raquel Gonzalez. After that, we had Johnny Gargano putting up his NXT North American Championship against Kushida. Sorry for that plate noise you guys just heard. It was just finished eating some cake. You gotta love that cake, man. Anyways, about this match, Kushida, I gotta say, I have a love-hate relationship with this guy. I know what he could bring to the table in his matches when he is at his very best and paired with the right wrestler. And I did like him and his character as this time splitter, Back to the Future-esque gimmick he portrayed early on in his New Japan run, going on into WWE. But since coming over to the E in the States, he hasn't done a whole lot for me. Maybe the translation over into the American wrestling product just wasn't as effective in NXT as it was in Japan with that Japanese crowd. That being said, this was an excellent display of his talents that I knew he had in him. And this was easily his best performance since coming over to WWE.
This match with Johnny Gargano last night, it went close to 25 minutes. This match last night between him and Gargano, this was Kushida's best match since getting signed to the E.
Of
completely.
Course. Bar none.
Like, completely. The fact that you went against Johnny Gargano, he wasn't going to win, but the fact that against Johnny Gargano for 25 minutes, submission hold after submission hold, reversal after reversal. There was one point in the match they were going to do a superplex, and then Johnny Gargano reversed it into a reverse neck breaker from in the midair, and then Kushida was targeting the arm, and so on and so forth. But to me, the best part of the match was that the fact that Candice wasn't there, Theory wasn't there because of what happened backstage, and everyone in the way wasn't there. Me personally, I wanted to see a straight up wrestling match with no interference. So what fans need to understand is that if you're part of a faction, sometimes you really do not need the faction to help you win. There's nothing wrong of winning on your own. Completely. And
say it out, dude. Say it out loud so the main roster creative team can hear you.
Like seriously, you do not. No one needs. You're a top star. Raw, SmackDown. This even goes for AEW. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, wherever you are. If you're part of a faction, sometimes seriously, especially if you're in a heel faction, you do not need your people from your own faction to help you win. What Gargano proved last night is that he did not need a way to help him win from his previous title defenses. He won clean. He won straight up. That's why the match was fantastic from beginning to end. Now for Kushida, yes, this was his best match when since he's been signed. But I'm gonna be real with you right now. After this, where the fuck does Kushida go from here? I'll tell you where. Nowhere. Because after this, literally, right before the match, this goes back to what happened to Austin Theory. His name. Dexter Loomis took Austin Theory away from the equation. You literally have Johnny Gargano's next feud right there. You have his next feud right there. And
so we're pretty much in agreement there. Yeah, I think I was honestly asking myself, where the hell does Gargano himself go from here after beating Kushida clean in the middle of the ring to retain the title? I thought, Dexter Loomis was right there. He has his thing going with Austin Theory, and that'll maybe transition over to Gargano himself, but we'll have to see on that.
No. It will, because not Theory. Dexter Loomis's character is so great and so mysterious. It makes us, the viewers, pay attention on what he's going to do next. Silence is golden until you need to prove a point. And that is what he's proving. He obviously wants a North American Championship match. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if NXT is going to have a takeover before Mania or maybe a TV special before Mania. We don't know. But all I can say is this. Loomis is next in line for the North American Championship. Kushida is pretty much done after this. He's pretty much done after this. I don't know where he's going to go from here. Gargano is going to continue becoming North American champion, and on the next couple of weeks, we'll see what happens. But until then, Gargano retained in a fantastic match from beginning to end, and Kushida go somewhere.
Yeah, I ain't even gonna hold my breath on where Kushida goes from here and the rest of his time in the E. So he'll just like fade into further obscurity after this match, because he wasn't doing a whole lot before this match last night either. So after that, we had MSK versus the Grizzled Young Veterans. This was the finals of the men's Dusty Classic Tag Team Tournament that we're so used to.
This match right here, to me, was match of the night, hands down. This was match of the night, period. And like, this was the crazy part.
Yeah, you're just like, so like, I could see you joyful of excited.
Yeah,
it's like all in your system. You gotta let it out, man.
Yeah, because like, here's the thing. Here's the crazy part. Grizzled Young Veterans last year went to the finals of the Dusty Cup. Same thing that they went to the finals this year. Mm-hmm. MSK's only been in NXT for 6 weeks. Grizzled Young Veterans just came over from NXT UK 2019 going into 2020 into the Dusty Cup finals. Fast forward to this year, they went to the finals again. And honestly, I wanted Grizzled Young Veterans to win. But I'm also not mad at the fact that MSK won. I'm not mad at the fact that they won.
Right.
The fact that you took MSK, a team you literally just signed, they came to NXT, they won the Dusty Cup, and now they're #1 contenders for the tag team titles. That's crazy in a good way. Because not that many people knew who MSK was. I knew who they were before. They were the Rascals back in Impact. But for other people that didn't know who they were, now you know who they are.
Right. And speaking, and sorry to cut you off there, but I should throw this out there. I may be on and off with the NXT product as of late. So this is my first real exposure to MSK on the NXT brand, as I didn't go back and see their matches in the earlier rounds of the tournament when they qualified. But that doesn't mean that I don't know who Zachary Wentz and Desmond Xavier are, as they were known by their indie names. Like you mentioned, Richard, the Rascals was their tag team name. And I've been keeping an eye on these guys since I first saw them at a Pro Wrestling Guerrilla show a couple years back. They've been really making strides over there as well on the independent circuit. They've always been impressing me. They've been one to watch for the past few years in the tag team scene. And so it is nice to see them come up to the big leagues and showcase their abilities to a much wider audience, as they are deserving of that, given their talent. And like you said, Rich, I actually did not have them winning here coming out of the show, as I assumed that they would put them in the tournament just to showcase what they got and ultimately lose to Zach Gibson and James Drake, who I had picked to win because it made sense. They've been a team for about 2 years and have been one of the best tag teams in WWE this whole time, maybe even beyond that, if we're being honest. But on the contrary, as MSK pulled off the upset in the end in another great match on the TakeOver show, and they really did make the decision to tie the rocket to these guys' backs, as this tournament has been the proper introduction for the MSK tag team. And they went on to win the whole thing, which you don't really see all that often. So they will be getting a tag team title match at some point against Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan, and I can't wait for that, because that's going to be an outstanding match.
About the Cup, that you get to see a lot of great tag team wrestling. Like, for hopefully within the Dusty Cup they literally just had, you can definitely revitalize the NXT tag team division, because you have Oni Lorcan and Burch, Grizzled Young Veterans, MSK, Imperium, Breezango, Undisputed Era. Who else do you have? Legado de Fantasma. Who else is the team there? The way Gargano in Theory, the way, so that's 8. So far you have like a good you need like 2 more teams and then you'll be whole again. Because remember, there was a time where the tag team division in NXT was at its peak. It was at its peak. It was on and off during the pandemic era and whatever, but now slowly but surely, it's getting back to the way it was. Take WWE, take note. This is how you revitalize a tag team division. Like in the main roster, you barely have any tag teams. You guys didn't give a fuck about tag teams ever since 34. While NXT's tag team division right now, you have 8 teams, but it's a good solid 8 teams that you could build around. And with MSK facing off against Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, my goodness.
You're confused. You're confusing the two, man.
Yeah. Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. Honestly, I see MSK winning the tag team titles. I see it. I see them winning the tag team titles. 100%.
Oh, so you really want to take them all the way? Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is, with all due respect to Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, with all due respect to them, I don't see them like, yeah, they're heels, whatever, but what are they bringing to me as champions?
Right.
Like ever since they won the belts, what have you done? You've only defended the belts like I don't know, like you like what have you done? With MSK, you put the titles on them. You could have MSK face off against Grizzled Young Veterans, Gargano and Theory. Gargano and Theory, Breezango, Undisputed Era, if they're still together, and the Phantasma, a team not to be slept on. You see what I'm saying? Like you have
They have a tag team division that they could put the title center the titles around. Yeah.
And NXT has a solid tag team division that they could definitely work around these guys, and that's why I'm saying MSK is going to be the next tag team champions.
As for my thoughts on that, it's kind of maybe a long shot. I don't know if they're willing to put up the tag team titles on them just yet. Like, because the thing with that is, it's okay, great. They win the tag team titles off the back of winning the Dusty Classic tournaments as they did last night. And it's like, where else do they go but down from that point? So early on in their career, so early on in their run in NXT. So I don't even know if they're willing to take that risk. Because that's what it is at the end of the day, a risk. Because you're gonna expose them and but put them at the top of the food chain in the NXT tag team division, winning the title so early on off the back of the tournament, and it's like, okay, they're gonna have a pretty good reign, probably with the competition they have stacked up against them to go up against, and it's like they'll eventually lose it, but they won't. And then it's like, where else do they go but down from there? That's why it's like a building process with a lot of teams, and not just the tag team division. It's for the women's wrestlers and the main eventers as well.
Right. Well,
yeah, so that's the risk you have to. That's the price you have to pay most of the time when it comes to, tying the rocket strap to somebody's back.
Right.
And just elevating them so early on in their careers.
Yeah, true. And plus, in terms of history, like ever since the Tag Team Classic came about, and ever since the 2018, every single team that won the Dusty Cup won the tag team titles. Every single one. They now put that number one contendership into the tournament itself.
So you're saying you want them to beat the streak this time? That's
no. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that putting the number one contendership with the classic, it brings up the ante of the tournament by itself. And with MSK, this goes for the men's and the women's. For MSK, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, these two teams needs to win the tag titles. I'm sorry, they need to win the tag titles to give relevancy back to the titles, because when in past Dusty Cup winners, Undisputed Era, they won and they brought the tag team titles to relevancy. Then the Broserweights, Riddle and Dunn, it was relevant. Then
all right, we don't need to go over
yeah,
the whole history,
no,
but I do get what
you
you're
get
saying.
what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
all about bringing relevancy to the titles.
Right.
MSK, young, talented, I won't say charismatic because I haven't heard them talk yet. But very charismatic. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, great team. They've been together since jump. These two got to win these tag titles, bring relevancy, and see what they're gonna do from there.
Agreed.
And that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. I will give you that, but the whole, except for the fact that I don't know if they necessarily need to win so early, like I mentioned earlier, why, and I gave my arguments as to why they shouldn't hold, they should hold off on that, not pull the trigger so soon on the two. But we'll see what NXT has up their sleeve on that front. We'll see what their plans are in the long run for that team and the division as a whole coming off this tournament. After that, we had Io Shirai putting up her NXT Women's Championship against Toni Storm and Mercedes Martinez in a triple threat. Not a whole lot to go over with this match. In terms of the action, it was solid, though pretty rough around the edges. Some spots didn't work out smoothly as they wanted. Speaking of which, the real talking point that came out of this match wasn't the match itself, but rather the ghost spot that happened with the announce table. So this is what happened. They were all at ringside by the announce table, and Storm was clearing the table off to put somebody through it, when all of a sudden, the table just collapses on its own. No impact through it, nothing. Nobody was put through the table, nothing like that. She was literally clearing off the announce table to put somebody through it. She was getting ready for that spot, I guess. Toni barely touched anything, and the table collapses on its own. Hopefully I hope someone responsible for that gets reprimanded for that, because someone needs a good talking to after that mess up. Whoever was struck setting up the tables to be put through like that.
Well, okay, I'm gonna say this about the NXT Women's division. I mean not division, the match. So I'm not gonna lie. As much as I love these three women, from the card itself, from what I saw yesterday, this was the weakest, because the first three matches back to back to back,
pretty great, yeah.
It was great.
The first three matches.
It was hard for those three ladies to follow what they just did, and plus, I don't know if you know this, they were short on time.
Right.
Originally, the match was supposed to be 20 minutes. But it ended in 12. And another thing is that
maybe it was for the better, because seeing as what we were getting out of the match.
Exactly. So like when it comes to the title defense, I knew from jump Mercedes Martinez she was gonna take the pinfall, hands down. And honestly, like you just said, there's nothing else to say about this match.
Right.
There's nothing else to say about this match. Like, Io won, let's move on. Yes, the table fell apart, which was actually kind of funny. But
that was the highlight, dude. I'm sorry, but if that was the highlight of your match, then yeah, we got some problems.
Yeah, but I'm saying this right now. But here's the thing. Yes, the triple threat match is done. But Io and Toni, they're not done by a long shot, because Toni did not get pinned. So her next title defense will be against Toni Storm, one-on-one. The match that I originally wanted. Because, let's be real, Io has never beaten Toni on a one-on-one basis. I'm not counting last night. I wanted to face each other last night in a one-on-one basis. I didn't mind Mercedes Martinez. I didn't mind that. The video package, fantastic. With my niggas, Bring Me the Horizon, fire. I was hyped when that happened. So, build up to the match was great. The match didn't deliver as much. It was also quick, but what can you say? Io won. I want her to face against Toni, one to face off but this time one-on-one. And I don't know, maybe in the next defense, this time, Tony might win. I don't know. Do I want to be wrong? Yes and no. I don't know. But these two can bring it. But no offense to the ladies. I love these ladies, but we gotta talk about the end.
I thought, listen. I thought maybe it was time for Toni Storm, honestly, to win the women's title here. I mean, Io's been champion for what, 8 months now, from last I recall, and has really faced and beaten everyone throughout this reign in that women's division, save for Raquel Gonzalez, who did pin her in that War Games match, like I mentioned earlier on in this review. And that's likely the next destination they go in, if not for if not just for Toni Storm and Io one-on-one. With Gonzalez maybe beating her to win the title. Maybe they do another triple threat with those three.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, about Raquel. Like, it's all about the right time of when you're gonna put the belt on Raquel. It's all about timing. Okay.
I mean, I don't know if speaking, funny you mentioned timing. I wanted to ask you this question. Do you think it's the wrong time if they decide to put on the belt on her in, like, say, the next 2-3 months?
Like within 2 to 3 months time from now, will it be Raquel's time to win the title? I can't give you an answer. The reason why is because still with Dakota. If Raquel's gonna be successful, she needs to branch herself out of being Dakota's sidekick, be one with herself, and then win the title. That's what needs to happen. Right. Because if she still follow on the coattails of Dakota, she's not going to be successful. She has to branch out.
Let me stop you right there. But I don't think necessarily that she's been riding the coattails of Dakota Kai as of late. Initially, yeah. A year ago, when Raquel was first introduced to the NXT fan base and WWE as a whole, yeah, she was riding the coattails of Dakota because she was a well-known name. She was establishing herself. And Raquel was that sidekick to best suit and complement the heel persona of Dakota Kai that was pretty new at the time last year. But over time, it's like Raquel Gonzalez has been the real standout because she's the one with the most to prove, and she's been getting all these big moments to shine, pinning Io, pinning Rhea Ripley. It's like
she is the standout. If
anything, it honestly feels like Dakota Kai is just riding Raquel's coattails at this point.
True. You're right, but still
not to crap on her because I love Dakota Kai. She's fucking great, but Raquel's been the real standout as of late.
She's been the real standout, but the thing is she's still with Dakota. That's the issue. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, when this was early NXT, Charlotte and Banks were together.
Right.
Sasha.
Oh, you're not gonna wait. You're not gonna compare the two right now. You're not gonna compare the two because they weren't properly like that, like Dakota and Raquel were.
Okay, true. Okay, fine. I won't compare the two, but still, Raquel needs to separate herself. Still, no matter. Understand she's on.
I understand that. No, I agree with you there. She ultimately does need to separate herself from Kai, not be associated with her anymore. They could still not tease, but just like bring back the partnership or the friendship, like from time to time, if like they need to do a tag team match together. But for the most part, yeah, branch them off. I agree with you there. But I wouldn't go so far as to say like, oh, she's riding Kai's coattails. Like that was the issue I had there.
Right. Okay, I understand that. But in 2 to 3 months, we have to wait and see. I can't give you a straight up answer about Raquel possibly winning the NXT women's title. I can't give you a straight up answer. I have to still continue to see what they're going to do with her.
Exactly. Even so, they might still hold off even further with Raquel, pulling the trigger on her, and they'll just go with Tony and Io one-on-one properly.
Right.
I'd be fine with that too. Like, they're never going to give anyone a bad match. So those two women are great. So if that's the route they go in, then hey, we're all winners at the end. And in the main event, right after the women's title match, we had Finn Balor against Pete Dunne for the NXT Championship. I gotta say this, Finn Balor has been a lot more submission-based as of late since the matches he had with Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT title in the fall. And he has been doing less strikes and big big moves like grapple moves, and adopted more of a mat wrestling ground style of wrestling, which is a nice change of pace with the typical offense we've been accustomed to seeing in his matches. It's like, okay, we're okay, great. Sling blade, corner missile dropkick in the corner, coup de grace, 1-2-3 pin. We used to see that a lot with him on the main roster. But and maybe even early on in NXT when he came back last year, 2 years ago. But I've been liking this nice change of pace from Balor and his offense. This has been something great to see for him.
Finn Balor, like, ever since he became NXT, like, he's been great. He's been doing a great job. His in-ring style completely changed. Like, the match between him and Dunn last night was great, fantastic. Like, they both brought it out in each other. Very technical, very submissive, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say, Pete Dunne more or less wrestles that exact same way that Balor is now. So it was a lot of limb targeting and submission holds all throughout the match, which I'll be honest, it didn't make for the most exciting match ever at first, but it was still an overall pretty great match after it picked up in the second half.
Right. But now we saw a great match between Balor and Dunn. But it's what happened after the match that got everybody talking. Now, no one saw TakeOver last night. After the match, tag champs, Lorcan and Danny Burch came out. They attacked Balor along with Dunn. Then Undisputed Era came out.
Mm-hmm.
They helped out Balor. They did their regular pose. You see on the right-hand side, the infamous NXT TakeOver trademark to end the show. And then next thing you know, nowhere, Cole super kicks Finn Balor. And then on honest to God, I was waiting for this for so long. I was waiting for this. And then next thing you know, Roderick Strong, O'Reilly goes up to Cole, basically saying, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing? He just wrestled, yada yada yada." Then next
right, they have the friendship. Right, O'Reilly and Balor, they built up that friendship, that mutual respect over the months.
Mutual respect, and then next thing you know, he super kicks O'Reilly. So once he did that, he's like, now we get to see what's gonna go on next. Now we get to see what's going to go on next. So now this puts everything into an interesting perspective. Now, Abba, me and you both know that WWE is in talks of having the NXT Championship being defended at WrestleMania.
Right. Yeah. There's been strong talks of WWE possibly deciding, let's do an NXT title match for WrestleMania in a few months.
Exactly. But with what happened last night, this brings up so many questions. For example, this brings up so many questions into this. With WrestleMania coming along, who is Balor really going to face? If they do decide to have the NXT title defend at WrestleMania, who is Balor really going to face? Because, by the way, I'm looking at it, Balor still needs to face Cross.
Exactly. Like that's the big match that we're all anticipating and expecting going into WrestleMania. If not at Mania itself, if they decide to do the title match there.
Exactly. And plus, along with that, the day before TakeOver, Balor said in an interview with the New York Times about possibly bringing back the Demon King. Bring it back to the Demon King to NXT. Literally, the perfect person to bring back the Demon King is against Cross, and it has to be at Mania, without a doubt.
Wow. I didn't think that far ahead into it about him bringing back the Demon King.
He said himself he wants to bring it back, but it's all about when. The perfect time to bring back the Demon King is to face Cross at WrestleMania for the NXT title. Now, in terms of Cole and O'Reilly, this brings up so many questions because as an Undisputed Era as a whole, what's going to happen between the Undisputed Era? Who is Roderick Strong is going to side again? What is Bobby, even though he wasn't there, what is Bobby Fish going to do? Because since he's going to be in the middle, we already know what happened with Cole. And now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is this. Remember how NXT's best rivalry was Gargano and Ciampa?
Right.
But wrestling fans doesn't know. O'Reilly and Cole has history together
Of course.
as a rivalry. What Triple H just did, he just made a new rivalry in the NXT franchise in O'Reilly and Cole to follow up with Gargano and Ciampa. Because what these two are going to bring to the table that fans do not know is going to be fucking amazing. From their wars they had in Ring of Honor, PWG, and everywhere in the independent scene, two is going to create magic with each other. This could, they do it right, which which they will. If they do it right, this rivalry will be rivalry of the year, hands down. And I'm calling it. O'Reilly and Cole will be the best rivalry this year in NXT. To the culmination of Riley becoming champion. I'm telling you this right now.
You think that'll be the end game? O'Reilly finally winning the big one.
O'Reilly finally winning the big one. I would say this will happen. Further down the line, Cole's gonna win the NXT title again. O'Reilly, for some reason, will be injured or whatever, be taken out of action. He comes back, he faces Cole for the NXT title. O'Reilly finally wins. And honestly, Abba, Adam Cole specifically, this is Cole's final rivalry in NXT. Because what does Cole have to do? There's nothing for Cole to do left in NXT. He's done it.
Yeah, dude, I think we said that like freaking. I think we had that same conversation like 2 years ago before he eventually won the NXT title.
Yes, like seriously, in my opinion, this is Cole's final rivalry feud in NXT. He's won the NXT title. He's won the Dusty Cup, the tag team titles, North American title. He's an NXT Grand Slam. What else this man needs to do? He puts O'Reilly over as the top person in NXT, have O'Reilly win the NXT title from Cole, have Cole move up to the main roster, God help him once he moves over there, and then you take it from there. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm pretty 50-50 on Cole succeeding or outright falling flat on his face when he goes up to the main roster eventually. I don't know how he'll fare there.
All of us are. Given
his talent, and his natural charisma and his promo ability, come on. You think it's impossible to fuck somebody like him up. But this is the E we're talking about here. This is this is Vince McMahon holding Adam Cole in the palm of his hands and the rest of his career, unless they decide to release him. But who knows?
Exactly. And now in terms of since Cole, what he just did, now this brings interest to NXT this coming Wednesday about the status of the Undisputed Era as a whole. In terms of O'Reilly, this is now the come up of O'Reilly. He's been there, but this is now the come up of O'Reilly of his own character, right, as now a one-on-one competitor. What is O'Reilly going to do on his own to face Cole on his way to become NXT champion? I'm saying this, by summer, O'Reilly will become NXT champion. By summer.
Right. That becomes a little bit more complicated to predict and contemplate that happening when you have Karrion Kross in the fold. Karrion Kross in the backside. So
true, but here's why. Here's what I'm saying. I didn't even say Kross's name because let's be real. Kross is going to the main roster by Mania. Like flat out.
So you think if they're having the NXT title match at Mania after all, let's say they do Balor and Kross, because I think that's the likely match they'll showcase on the Mania stage this year. And you think Kross is going to lose the title match, and he'll go up to the main roster after Mania?
Because, like, honestly, Kross in NXT. I'm not saying it's great, which it is. But like, it's like main roster ready, and he just got to NXT. Vince loves Cross. Like, like in the main roster, will he kill it? Yes. Like,
he has a better chance than someone. He has a better chance than someone like Kyle O'Reilly or maybe even Adam Cole, just given his size.
Hands down. That's why for Cross, if he goes up to the main roster, will I be mad? No. I'll be mad if Cross goes to the main roster at all. That if he goes to Mania, if he goes to Mania, he faces Balor. If he loses, fine. Goes up to the main roster. I'll see him. Okay, Cross, chuck the deuces. I'll see you on Raw the next night. That's it.
Right.
Like, don't be surprised if Cross moves up to the main roster the next night. Let's say Drew McIntyre retains at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Cross is going to be the next WWE champion. Just I'm like whatever.
Wow. Forget MSK winning the tag team titles en route to winning the tournament last night. You're just like, wow, you're really strapping the rocket to Karrion Kross over here with your thoughts.
Cross, son, his character work is money. We haven't had a great character like this, particularly in Kross, for a very long time. I'm not counting Bray Wyatt.
But it goes back to what I was saying with MSK and the potential risks you face there. But apply it to Karrion Kross. This is a much larger scale, man. You're talking about putting him up on taking him up to the main roster, Raw or SmackDown, whatever, having him feud with the WWE champion, probably Drew McIntyre, and him winning outright in his first pay-per-view match, second pay-per-view match with him. That's nowhere else to go but down, man. It's a work in progress. You gotta give it time. Like, how do you even know he's gonna fare well on the main roster? Will the main roster fan base take to him? Who knows?
Well, yes,
it's all up in the air.
It remains to be seen. But like we even said it in the podcast, Kross, Ricardo Kenny, they haven't been watching NXT in forever, but
they praised Karrion Kross, yeah.
I praised him too. To the main roster.
He's as he should, yeah. Roster. As he should, sometime this year.
No, I'm saying like within 2 months, he's out of NXT, and I'm also saying this right now. I said this, and I will say it again. WWE Championship, WrestleMania. Right now, it's like not even interesting.
The WWE Championship.
WWE Championship, and that's sad. Like, let's say I hope they don't do this, but like let's say hypothetically, they have Sheamus go against McIntyre. They have McIntyre against Sheamus at WrestleMania. Honestly, do I care about that match? No.
But, they probably will do that match though.
But the next day on Raw, Paul shows up, beats McIntyre's ass. McIntyre goes backstage to management and says like, yo, I want Kross tonight, and hell, I will put the WWE title match, the title on the line on that night. Kross wins.
Listen, that'll be an eventful night for Karrion Kross and for, just like in terms of a big title change on the Raw after Mania. But after that, it's like it all depends on the aftermath. How will the main roster fare how will Karrion Kross fare on the main roster? How not even in the short term, but the long term. Exactly. It might fizzle out for all we know, worst case scenario, and Karrion Kross will be just another guy. I'm hoping not. That's my worst fear, honestly. I never want to see people that I'm a huge fan of and advocating to succeed in the long term just fizzle out and fade into relative obscurity. I don't want to see that.
True, but like you just said, we have to wait and see. But
exactly.
Overall, TakeOver out of 10, I'm giving it 8.5, close to a 9. It could have been a 9.5 if it wasn't for the triple threat match. But I'm giving it an 8.5. The key high. No. It could have.
No. Hey, you enjoyed it. Hey, you enjoyed it the way you did. I mean, it's like, wow, okay.
Like
high score. Yeah.
A higher score. Like the only TakeOver I will seriously give a 10 out of 10 is one that I went to 2 years ago, TakeOver New York. That TakeOver was a 10 out of 10. This TakeOver was an 8.75.
Okay.
The high points to Takeover was the Dusty Cup, both matches. And Adam Cole, you train Undisputed Era, and Balor retaining. We don't know if there's going to be a takeover around Mania time or after Mania. We honestly don't know. It remains to be seen. Or maybe they do a TV special for NXT, like a takeover-esque TV episode.
Yeah. Of course.
A takeover-esque episode.
Yeah.
On TV. So remains to be seen. Or hell, they might do it on Peacock. That's another thing we got to talk about, but that's later. But overall, Takeover was a fantastic show from beginning to end. Great wrestling from beginning to end. Great matches. I'm looking forward to the next Takeover as always.
Yeah, I would give it, for my own rating on the show as a whole of Takeover Vengeance Day last night, I would probably go high 7, maybe even a low 8. I think that's pretty fair.
Okay, I don't know about a 7. I'm giving it an 8.5.
Well, I give it a high.
I don't know about a 7.
Well, it's a high 7. I'm a little bit more critical of these shows, but yeah, the women's title match just kind of like threw me in for a loop. I just like, it kind of was just like a kind of a turnoff for me because the triple threat for the women's title there, it was just like it kind of just, it didn't kill the momentum outright, but it did hamper it back down a little bit for me. Yeah, but yeah, the ending was great. The first 3 matches were excellent, and yeah, overall really strong show. I enjoyed it throughout. So with that out of the way, thanks for checking out our thoughts on NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. We will be back for episode 55, hopefully this upcoming Sunday. So until then, peace out, guys, and take care.
Take care, guys.